This is Grimm Grinner on all channels.
The Badlands River, run through corporations, is an insidious agent. Fire and stunning gates, devastation to the wastes, the desolated land. Do not trust him.
Welcome to the Wastes. Morning, Wasteland. This is Grimm Grinner broadcasting out of the bunker with the first bit of good news I've had in a long while. But before I can get to it, I've got to get through some updates I've received since the last time I was able to transmit. Received word that the outpost known as Bale Bunker has recently been taken over by a group known as the Slashers and renamed Horror House. No word quite yet on their leader or on what might happen with the settlement, but I'll be keeping my ear on the static for any news. Balasar and the Phoenix Express have successfully set up another base of operations after rumors of corporate spies in the ranks trying to find and get into the nest. The new outpost is going to keep the name of Nest, but they're going to keep it slightly more mobile to avoid this happening again. Any changes in location will have coordinates transmitted to all couriers in case you all need to check in. Spies have been dealt with, and Balasar is working on a new vetting process to try and catch any corpse trying their luck again. A vigil is being held by the clerics of Blast soon, in memory of a year having passed since Praxis' death. Holding it at a small outpost they've set up for the regular services. All who are friends of Praxis are welcome and invited to attend. I would be going, but seeing as I've recently had my own sort of vigil, and as I'm on the run from several bounty hunters at the moment, including some corporate mercs and at least one cult of crazed fanatics out for my blood, it's probably a good thing I set this one out. But to any clerics listening, may the sun shine bright upon you. Alright, Wastelanders, I guess that's about all I have for updates. Now, what you all really want to hear about. What's the good news, Grimm? So, about a week back, I got word from a small camp on the edge of the Badlands that some Wastelanders, fitting the descriptions of the Haven survivors I gave months ago, had happened to come through. They were only staying long enough to trade some supplies and rest their heads. Despite the risk of being so close to the vanished territory, and of course, hunters, mercs, creeps, and cultists, I decided to check out the tip. And yes, I'm well aware it could have been a trap, which I unfortunately have a knack of falling into. But with word of the vanished being too busy fighting each other, knowing corpse and jury don't stray that way too often, I was willing to take a chance. It took the better part of 2 days to get out of the camp, as I did have to avoid a few squads patrolling nearby here, and it took a while to lure out and deal with some ferals that were holed up in a shop mart I was trying to loot and make camp in for the night. But I did eventually make it there, and was not only happy to find out that it wasn't a trap, but that the Haven crew had barely made it a day's ride out from there so far. My bike hadn't even cooled by the time I was able to barter for a few extra scraps and some ammo and be back on the road. As an aside, Mender, if you're hearing this, bike's handling wonderfully. Finally buried the needle enough for that speed test we wanted to do before all of this. Anyways, I got up to the car and the crew in it maybe about a day and a half later, as they had made camp in an abandoned old outpost. It used to be called the Manor. Old place, used to house rich folks before the fall, and was fortified somewhat as things were going to shit. Now it's a ruin like so many other places, but over the years different groups have tried turning it into a base. Not sure why it's never been properly claimed for longer than a couple of weeks at a time, though. Off track, sorry. So, caught up with the crew at the Manor, who were one fewer than when I last saw them, and looking substantially worse for wear. When I pulled up, they were all very quick to draw their weapons, but what I didn't expect was the reaction when they saw it was me. All those years I spent beating myself up. All that time, I thought it was disappointment on Massey's face. These past couple months in isolation, and being alone with my own thoughts and regrets, I forgot that maybe things aren't always so black and white. Sometimes I'm just not seeing the situation with all the factors. The last look I got from Massey at the fall of Haven, the one I thought was disappointment or regret for taking me in, for letting me tinker with that radio relay, it turns out that after all these years I was wrong. The look was regret, that he didn't think he could save me. It was fear of what would happen as they ran. And I know this because after he grabbed me in the biggest bear hug he could muster, he told me as much. When the Haven crew realized it was me, their demeanor changed in a fraction of a heartbeat. I don't think I've ever seen someone clear a gap of about 24 paces as quickly as Massey did. Hell, I think I might still have some bruised ribs from the hug, as well as all the other ones. I didn't bring up that one of them was missing, since I figured that would have a story, and we needed to get inside. So, we grabbed all of our gear from our vehicles, and I went in with them, feeling lighter than I have in a long while. After we set up camp, we finally started catching up. Told them what happened with me in that time, from the Dripping Rose all the way up until recent events. Turns out they'd been radio silent for some time, but Lynx had thought she heard my voice coming through static at a few camps over the years. Then it was their turn to fill me in on what happened after Haven. First off, they had adopted a new moniker to go by, since any mention of Haven would risk bringing creeps down on them. With them roaming the wastes and struggling to find any spots to settle down and rebuild, they simply took to calling themselves the HaveNots. Apparently they had various other wanderers join up for small stretches, and made it easy to identify their camps whenever they managed to stop long enough to set one up. For a few years, they lived like that, making it basically all the way to Coover, where they were able to set up a small outpost to call home for a while. But being that close to another corporate city came with risks. That's when they lost Ryder. He'd gone out one day on what was supposed to be a short supply and trade run with a nearby convoy. Turns out he wasn't the only one interested in them. Corporate mercs intercepted the group just as Ryder had pulled up. They weren't looking to take anyone in. From the way Trixie described it, the explosions and smoke could be seen for several clicks, even from their own camp. When they saw the corporate vehicles coming their way, they knew it wouldn't stand up to an assault. So they packed as much as they could and made tracks. Dex and Trixie were distraught, as the two of them and Ryder had built up an extremely strong and close relationship on the roads. The whole group made their way back across to the other coast for a small while, trying to track down word of some other Haven survivors. From what Lynx gathered, the few that had made it away from either being ghosted or captured and taken to the tower scattered in all sorts of different directions, kind of like how I had managed. Sadly, they didn't find much out that way other than whopping levels of decay and radiation. Not sure if it was from the fall or if it was more recent from maybe a corporate facility, but they didn't linger long enough to find out. Although, Dex did notice some intriguing mutations of the plants and some smaller animals there, which lends some more weight to reports I've heard from other regions that were impacted by rats. It's only been recent months that Mazzy and the remaining HaveNots have been back in this region, just scraping by and sticking close to the borderlands in case they need to take off again, picking up whatever info they can on Haven survivors with very few trails to follow. We all stayed at the manor, which was admittedly getting under all of our skins a bit. Something about it felt off. Might see if RG has any info on it. In the morning, after doing some personal one-on-one catching up, we talked some stuff out. That's when Mazzy and I opened up about that last look. His worry and fear that I took for anger or disappointment was born out of what he knew about those captured and rewarded by the corporations. His thoughts seeing me that last time were on a future he didn't want. A future that saw me wearing the suit of a creep. Which explained why that bear hug was so tight. He was happy to see I kept running, stayed who I was all this time. And to be honest, that fear has been one of mine for a long time. It's one thing to get 86'd and rot away under the sun and shattered moon. It's another to be brainwashed and convinced to do the dirty work of the corporations, which would likely include hunting down people that used to be your friends, now relegated as codes on a sheet of paper with a bounty. I'd rather be taken out before anything like that happens. When we left the manor, the HaveNots were going to head off towards a rumored settlement in the far north, but with some convincing, I was able to sway Lynx to bend Mazzy's arm and bring the crew back my direction. Gods know I'm bored as hell here on my own, and the corpse would have a tough time finding them here in the bunker. We did decide that it would draw too much attention if we all came back together, so they've taken a roundabout route that allowed them to drop off a message with some contacts of mine. We're helping track down whoever that mysterious voice is. In fact, they should be back soon, I think. Oh, well, that must be them. Gonna go help everyone get loaded in and sort out some rooms, I guess. This has been Grimm Grinner on all channels. See you in the Wastes. Welcome to The Wastes is a Wasteland podcast brought to you by Edward Grimm Grinner Hutchinson. Feel free to follow me on all social media. Make sure to subscribe so you can hear new episodes as they release. If you like what I do here and want to support the podcast by getting some cool merch, check out my Etsy store. For more information and all the links, check out linktree.com/welcome to the wastes. Thanks for listening.